In 1839, few could have imagined that one man's moral stand would ignite a war whose consequences would shadow China for generations. That man was Lin Zexu, a scholar official summoned by the Daoguang Emperor and sent south to Canton with a single mandate: end the opium crisis. By the early 19th century, China's southern ports were drowning in narcotics. Opium grown in colonial Bengal flowed into Chinese cities through British merchants and the East India Company exchanged for tea, silk, and porcelain. Silver drained from the Qing economy. Addiction spread through households, collapsing families and hollowing communities. What appeared to be trade was, in truth, a system of exploitation. Lin Zexu understood this clearly. To him, opium was not a commodity. It was an existential threat. In March of 1839, Lin was appointed imperial commissioner. Within months, he moved decisively. By June, more than 20,000 chests of opium had been seized at Human. British warehouses and Chinese dens were emptied under imperial order. That summer, Lin wrote an extraordinary letter to Queen Victoria, a rare appeal across empires. He asked a simple, devastating question: how could Britain condemn the drug at home, yet profit from poisoning another nation? Whether the letter ever reached the Queen mattered less than the principle behind it. Lin was asserting moral law over imperial commerce. At Human, the destruction of the opium became a spectacle, almost ritualistic. Chests were broken open and heaped into vast pits. Lime and seawater were poured over the mass. Smoke rose thick and sweet, rolling toward the Pearl River estuary. Lin stood watching, furious, solemn, unyielding. For him, it was justice. For British merchants, it was an intolerable loss. For nearby addicts, it was catastrophe. The destruction did not end the trade. Instead, it exposed what lay beneath it. The opium economy was not accidental. It was engineered. British planters cultivated poppies in India. The East India Company and private traders smuggled the drug into China to correct Britain's massive trade deficit. Canton's Hong merchants, pressured by debt and foreign credit, became intermediaries. Smugglers used fast junks and pirate routes. Some Qing officials accepted bribes or looked away. Opium was no longer just a drug. It was an economic weapon, sustained by colonial capitalism and local corruption. When British merchants demanded compensation, London answered not with negotiation, but with gunboats. From 1839 to 1842, war erupted along the Pearl River and the Chinese coast. Qing defenses were no match for modern naval firepower. Battles were followed by diplomacy enforced at cannon range. The result was the Treaty of Nanking, signed in August 1842. Its language was formal, even polite. Its consequences were devastating. China ceded Hong Kong Island to Britain. 5 ports, Canton, Amoy, Fuzhou, Ningpo, and Shanghai, were forced open to foreign trade. Tariffs were constrained. An indemnity of 21 million silver dollars was imposed. Sovereignty was compromised, not only by force, but by ink. This marked the opening chapter of what would later be called the Century of Humiliation, a slow arithmetic of loss measured in silver drained, ports conceded, and laws overridden by foreign power. The horror of the First Opium War is not confined to battlefields or burning warehouses. It lives in ruined bodies, in families undone by addiction, and in a dynasty forced to sign away control under threat of violence. Lin Zexu's stand, brave, principled, and historically undeniable, became both symbol and warning. The opium he destroyed would return in new forms: legalized monopolies, colonial ports, foreign enclaves where Chinese law no longer ruled. This was a conspiracy with many hands. Merchants chasing profit, empires enforcing trade with guns, intermediaries feeding the system, and a global economy that turned addiction into policy. Along the Pearl River, the ghosts remain. Memories of smoke, shattered chests, and treaties signed in the shadow of war. Lin acted in righteousness. The response was relentless, and the modern world that followed was forged not in mutual exchange, but in coercion, loss, and the lingering aftermath of empire.